We'll call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. I want to acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Ask for a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on January 22nd, 2024 be adopted as circulated.
It's moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Espy. All of those in favor? And that is carried. We have one delegation this evening. If you just want to come to the podium, we're happy to have Dawn Fraze from Big Brothers and Big Sisters here. Thank you, Dawn, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Knox and Council, for this opportunity to share with you about Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have a video to show you first.
Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Plains is celebrating a milestone anniversary on 2024. This organization has matched Big Brothers and Big Sisters with youth in the region for 50 years.
Celebrating 50 years of Big Brothers Big Sisters is truly amazing. It's a small organization in our community, but it has withstood the test of time. I actually think back to all the kids I've known in 28 years, but I know even beyond that. That have been impacted by this organization. That excites me.
I became involved when my good friend on a ground sale were looking for growers, which I considered doing full time and stayed for 14 years. I think people recognize that the work we do here is good. The relationships that you see, the interactions between them, it's so lovely.
We play Shark Fight is our favorite game. We play that game a lot. Swimming from first helps me to like figure out different coordination and how to act on silly questions.
There are always more children waiting for their big than there are mentors available.
It takes a community to raise a child. I've always believed that the more people who love and care for my children, the better off they're going to be. Big Brothers Big Sisters to me is life-changing.
Relationships. Important.
Above and beyond. Heavy.
Fun. Life-changing.
So each relationship that happens at Big Brothers Big Sisters is intentional. Our professional staff try to match the right child to the right volunteer and monitor that developmental relationship to ensure safety, fun, and commitment. Young people graduate from our programs with measurable outcomes, the first being social emotional competence. So relationship skills, social awareness, responsible decision making. A student in our after school mentoring program, she can be a little bossy. Okay, she can be a lot bossy. And she flits from activity to activity. With the help of her mentor, she is learning to be more self-aware and will now most times stop herself from doing something that will cause issues. The second measurable outcome that we have is mental health and well-being. positive identity, mental wellness, social inclusion, and empowerment. Big Play is where a number of Portage Terriers come and play floor hockey with the boys on our waiting list once a week for 8 weeks. The first week we held this, the first year, one boy who has anxiety, and even though he knows us, doesn't talk to us, he played, but with no talking to anyone, and his mom had to stay in the gym the whole time. Within 2 weeks, he didn't need his mother to stay, and he was talking with everyone, was relaxed and comfortable. This contributed to his positive identity, inclusion, and mental wellness. And the third outcome is educational engagement and employment readiness, so that school connectedness, commitment to learning. In-school mentoring matches a child with a volunteer 1 lunch a week. For one student, her math and spelling became stronger from the games that she played with her mentor. For another student, they could guarantee that that student would be in school that day because their mentor was coming. Big Brothers Big Sisters has lots of statistics of how mentoring can benefit not just the child and family, but the community. Less crime, better relationships. We are a preventative program that meets the child where they are at. A board member once said, "The simple act of being present in the lives of young people, of listening, sharing, and helping them know they matter produces extraordinary results." So that is what Big Brothers Big Sisters does for the children in our community. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for your support. And we appreciate what you have helped, how you have helped us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or anything before? No? I'll just say congratulations on your anniversary. You and I have worked together a lot, and I know what a valuable program you have, and you've been a staple of that program for a long time. So congratulations on that. And I think you said it right. It's about holding space for the young people in our communities and making sure that they're involved in meaningful activity and making positive relationships. So congratulations on your 50 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I will open public hearing, request for variation PC 3-24 VS Properties Inc. at 51 Tupper Street. I'll ask if we have anyone here to speak in favor of the application. Hello, if you want to come to the podium and please state your first and last name for the record.
My name is Kristen Klein-Sarlis, and
Hi.
I am co-owner of VS Properties.
Excellent. So did you want to make a statement or answer?
Yeah, if that's okay.
That's-
And I'd also like to make a statement after we go through all of the objection letters as well, if that would be okay.
That sure is okay. You go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Council. So, as you know, this is our second kick at the can here with our variances. We took into account all of the points that were made at the previous meeting, and we feel that we've come back with something we can feel proud of and the community can be proud of as well. And we definitely looked at addressing all of the concerns made by council and community last time. So I just want to describe the property because we don't have a 3D mock-up. Due to funding limitations, we're not going to pour more money into this until we know that plans are approved. So I'm going to describe it for you in great detail. So it is 8 units. All units are 2-bedroom, 2 baths. They all have large outdoor green spaces, either with balconies or patios. The outside elevation aesthetics are eye-catching, but also go well with the neighborhood. We're not putting in some ultra-modern building that will be an eyesore. It really fits in. It's traditional, transitional. We're using board and batten siding, and stone will also be used. All units have in-unit storage. There will be ample green space at the rear of the building with a paved walk-around cement pathway. The grounds will be fully landscaped with ambient lighting. It will be professionally managed 24/7. 4 units are wheelchair accessible. Because this initiative is important to me, 1 unit will be affordable housing out of the 8 and rent controlled. The entire building will be constructed green. It'll be energy efficient and water efficient. Okay, Regarding our variances, I'd like to start with the side lot. So we are asking for a side lot variance of 2.439 meters, and for people who work in feet, that's 8 feet, but feel that this is required in order to give our tenants ample storage within the units, as well as a roomier floor plan. We envision empty nesters living there, we envision small families living there, and young professionals. This updated design also shows that the side entrances to the second floor have been removed and placed to the front and rear of the building. There was concern last time of the side patios, both with the side lot width and then privacy concerns of the neighbors. That has been taken out and fixed. So this means that there is no longer any patios or balconies facing either of the neighbors to the north and south. And for asking for 8 feet side lots, this is still a 47% decrease, which is on par with what this council has approved previously. Regarding variance of number of parking stalls, so this is a big one, and I've reviewed all of the letters of objection, all 3, which is a decrease from, I think, the 9 we had before, so we're on the right track. And we have 2 letters of support, which is great. Angela wanted to write one too, but I said no, you will, that's fine. Okay, so we're asking for 9 stalls rather than the 12 or the 10 we had previously. This makes it a 1 to 1 to 5 to 1 ratio, up from the 1 to 1 ratio that you see in Winnipeg that most multifamilies are doing now because of space. I also note that most recently at 3rd and Lorne Avenue, this council approved an aplex with a 1 to 1 parking ratio. So we have 9, could be 10, depending on what this council prefers. With the 9 showing 1 is a wheelchair accessible spot and visitor parking, okay? Regarding parking access width, the parking access width is increased due to the fact that the back lane is not serviced, nor are there plans to service, and it has been deemed by the city as unserviceable. Having parking in front of the building is safer and more visible for future tenants, and we have incorporated the necessary landscaping into the plans to account for a divide between the parking stalls and the walkway with shrubs, rock beds, and other measures to outline a distinct and separate parking area. Also, snow removal was listed as an issue at the last meeting, so I'd like it noted on record that there will be signage posted in the parking lot with our snow removal company's contact information. We presently use tolls at our other 3 businesses in the area. And lastly, on this parking variance, front parking variance, we have noted that there is precedence for this in the area within 2 blocks of this proposed property, and those addresses are an 8-unit at 51 First Street Southwest and a large single-story multifamily at 66 Royal Road South. The remaining variances on the application are very minimal asks, but there are a few other points I would like to bring to the attention of council. So, when we purchased this lot, it was zoned commercial prior to us asking for a rezoning to multifamily. It was never going to be a single family home lot. It was commercial. Previous council approved this rezoning application like Mayor Knox had stated at the last meeting, and at the time asked us what we envisioned for the lot. We submitted a very rough 4-plex plan that I think I drew on a piece of paper, which is this plan except with 2 stories. Same footprint, but 2 stories. As you know, we are in different economic times than prior to the pandemic, and so to make this project work from a financial perspective, 8 units are required. Having a multifamily unit on a lot is far better than the current vacant lot it currently is. People dump their garbage. There has been crime and theft. There have been people using this lot as escape routes. And more disturbingly, there is a drug issue with drug usage in the area, and I have personally found uncapped hypodermic needles on this property. We are a local developer who has, like I said, 3 other businesses and roots in Portage. We are not out-of-town investors. I think I know the community that I work in. This area of Portage is considered mixed use and urban, so a multifamily unit makes sense given the area.
Could you try again?
Oops.
Sorry.
Well, that's
Siri
okay.
can't hear you, so no, just kidding.
So, because we are in a mixed-use urban area, a multifamily unit makes sense. We, again, have tastefully and thoughtfully designed and changed the big things that were huge issues from last time. It's safe, clean housing, and you know that safe, clean housing is an issue across Manitoba and the country. And in closing, we are absolutely not looking to alienate or make any community members mad. I think that we have proved this by going back to the drawing board and taking into consideration all of the feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think we have come up with something that everyone could live with if they give it a chance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone else here to speak in favor of the application. Is there anyone here to speak against the application? Anyone here to speak against the application? Do we have letters to be read out?
Yes, we do. We have, first of all, 2 letters in favor. The first is from Rose and Keith Park. We are very much in favor of the above-mentioned building project. We have lived in the vicinity for almost 26 years and enjoy the area. As seniors, we realize that there will come a time soon that we will be downsizing from our house and yard to an apartment or life lease unit. This project is the first in our area to offer good-sized living spaces with quality indoor and outdoor space for citizens like ourselves. As this is only an 8-unit building, the parking lot in front will provide sufficient space and should have little or no effect for traffic flow on Tupper Street South. This lot has been vacant since the hall was demolished. The construction of well-built and maintained apartment units will be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. Sincerely, Rose and Keith Park. The second letter in favor is from Ferdy and Lorraine Nellison. We are fully in support of the building of the apartment complex, which will be located right across the street from us at 51 Tupper Street South. Our support is based on the fact that the property is being developed by a very respected and dedicated business family within our community, that they have a distinct plan, and we believe they will ensure it is properly operated and maintained. This lot has sat empty now since the old Elks Hall was demolished, and it leads to various concerns that we have witnessed over the years. Cars ripping through the lot and using it as a shortcut or just driving around, as we witnessed the other night when a vehicle must have circled through and around the back alley and Tupper Street, honking their horn in the middle of the night. In support of this, we do have some questions in regards to the parking aspect of the project and the street. The parking stalls appear to come out directly onto the street. It is our assumption that this will mean there will be no street parking allowed in front of that large driveway area. This will limit street parking. Will the City of Portage be enforcing a parking ban for snow removal if people are parked on the street so Tupper Street can be appropriately cleared when necessary? This is a busy street, and it has a municipal office, church, hall, and a business, along with standalone homes that require the street to be cleared and cleaned appropriately. All the houses either have driveways in the front or rear of their residences, and there is no need to have vehicles parked during snow removal or street cleaning times, which generally occur the day after garbage pickup. The hall, church, municipal office, and business all have parking lots and are not generally in use when clearing needs to be done. However, there are situations on the street where people are leaving vehicles overnight and are there when street clearing occurs, leaving a problem with proper clearing of snow, etc. With this project hopefully occurring, will the city ensure parking ban will occur on Tupper Street South from Saskatchewan Avenue to Dufferin Avenue? As well, parking on the west side of Tupper Street will become more limited, with this driveway forcing more vehicles to the east side of the road. This is not a major concern, although for snow removal and street cleaning, it is for us as residents living on Tupper Street. This, however, can be alleviated with the proper enforcement of overnight parking bans. In closing, we are in favor of this project proceeding, as the Sarlis family are excellent business owners within our community and have shown that their endeavors are operated at an extremely high level, as is the case with Prairie Fitness and Rehab. We feel that these are the people with a direct connection to our community. We want to develop these types of properties and projects versus people with no connection. We have seen how that has turned out with the project at the west end of Portage la Prairie. At least in this situation, we know who to contact with concerns versus a corporation or owner from outside the province or even offshore that has absolutely no connection to our community. Please call or email with any questions or clarifications you may need or want. Sincerely, Ferdy and Lorraine Nellison. And the next 3 letters are opposed to the application. The first one is from Bob and Jean Demon. We will be unable to attend the council meeting February 12th, 2024. While we appreciate the work done by VS Properties Inc. to reduce the number of units from 10 to 8, we remain strongly opposed to the construction of the proposed 2-story apartment building at 51 Tupper Street South for the same reasons the variation was defeated on November 14th, 2023. Basically, it would be too many people and too many cars for the size of lot. Having a little more green space on the north and south yards is a slight improvement, but reducing the number of parking stalls from 10 to 9 is insignificant. 9 parking stalls adjacent to Tupper Street would be unsightly and dangerous when backing out onto a busy street. If each apartment had 2 working adults, that would potentially be 16 vehicles, and there would be no room to park them on the street. An 8-suite apartment building will also reduce the value of the surrounding homes, as it would be just too much traffic for an already busy street. The corner of Dufferin and Tupper has more accidents than any other corner in Portage. An apartment building of this nature would be better located closer to the outskirts of the city to allow more room for families, including children and pets. We would like to see 2 single-family homes on the Tupper Street lot, which would enhance and be more conducive to the neighborhood. And that was from Bob and Jean Demon. The next one is from Bill Carruthers. In regards to the variance request concerning 51 Tupper Street South of lots 114, 115, 116, Plan 12, I find I once again have to object to this variance being granted. In my opinion, changing to the number of apartments from 10 to 8 does nothing to ease the already congestion of traffic in this area and potential danger associated with so much traffic. More apartments are not needed in this area, as we will still have plenty of apartments available to those who may be searching for such, including the apartments which are currently sitting vacant on 18th Street Northwest near Walmart. More apartments in this area of Tupper Street South would only further reduce the prices of properties already located in this single-family dwelling area. The area of Dufferin and Tupper Street South has seen many car accidents over the last few years, and one of our fears is with the addition of more traffic flowing through this area, accidents would continue to rise. I request this application for variance be denied. Thank you, Bill Carruthers. And the last one is from Sarah Murray. I am unable to attend the variation hearing on Monday, February 12th for file PC 3-24, so I am writing to state concerns over the variations being sought from VS Properties Inc. for civic address 51 Tupper Street South. I previously voiced opposing concerns at the first variation hearing for this property, and the concerns remain the same. Although there has been a reduction in size, I still have the following concerns. 1. The size of the build does not allow for green space in the front yard. The boulevard and existing trees will all be removed and replaced with a cement parking lot instead of a front yard. This does not match the current neighborhood. 2. The parking lot will likely not have enough parking for tenants. If each unit has 2 vehicles, that leaves 7 vehicles to street park. There is already a unit next door that is made into 7 suites that do not have the required parking, leaving residents parking on the street already. The parking on Tupper Street South is limited, as it can only occur between Saskatchewan Avenue and Dufferin. If the building's parking lot backs out onto the street, this further reduces the space for street parking, as residents of that building will need to park on the opposite side of the street. Multiple vehicles, street parking regularly prevents roads from being cleared properly in the winter. Tupper is a busy street, and backing out onto it is already a safety concern. So increasing the street parking will increase the safety concern and make leaving driveways more difficult and dangerous for current residents. The Masonic Hall often hosts events in which they require more parking than they have available as well, so will be negatively impacted. Could the parking lot be made off the back lane? That would be a slight improvement. 3. In An 8-suite apartment building will also reduce the value of surrounding homes as it would add too much traffic for an already busy street. Thank you, Sarah Murray.
Thank you. I do believe, Ms. Hart, you wanted to respond. You can come back up to the podium.
All right, there's a few concerns in the 3 letters of objection that I would like to address. I'll start with the Denman's letter, and I'd like to thank everyone for writing in, including the people who had objections, because I think that this conversation is needed. Like I said before, not only is there more green space in the north and side yards, but definitely in the rear. I've already talked about why we decreased the number of parking spots, because there was concerns that people could only park Mini Coopers here, I think it was last time. So we increased the stall size and went down, but we can go to 10 if this is what council prefers. I beg to differ that the parking area would be unsightly, since it would be landscaped and paved with ambient lighting, and ambient means, you know, taking the nighttime into effect and not bright lights shining into people's homes. Like I already said, there's already precedent within a 2-block radius with at least 3 other multifamily properties that have front access parking. It would also not be any more dangerous backing out of a front parking spot than it would be for any single family home resident parking or reversing out of their front driveway. It's the same amount of risk. I also don't think that we can make any assumptions on the demographic makeup of potential tenants. Some may have 2 cars, some may have none, some might share a vehicle. For us to assume things is not conducive to this decision. I'm also in the area of Tupper frequently. I have been by this property at all hours of the day and night. Early mornings, lunchtime, evenings after work, late at night, after hockey. And I have not ever experienced more than 3 or 4 cars parking on that area. In fact, tonight at 5:45 p.m., there were 2 cars parked on the east side of Tupper, not even on the same side as this potential property. As far as reducing the value of homes in the area, and I assume by that they mean single-family homes, statistically, data does not agree with this misinformed statement. What devalues homes within a neighborhood that is marked urban and mixed use is rampant drug use, evidence of crime, lack of or closing businesses, crime, vacant properties, and unkept properties. What does not devalue homes' worth within a mixed-use area is a well-kept, thriving, and interesting property that provides safe and clean housing. And again, I would remind community members opposed to this project that this vacant lot was zoned as commercial prior to us purchasing it. So you can take the idea of a single-family home off the mind. I would also not assume to know what a family with children and pets would want in a home, or make assumptions that they require more space and can afford that more space in these uncertain financial times. The statement that families with children and pets would be better located closer to the outskirts of the city is one that we very much disagree with. Although this well-intentioned personal opinion, it is a well-intentioned personal opinion, it is still one that assumes to know what all families want because they are only looking at it through one perspective. We currently have lots of families with children and pets renting units from us, and we are proud to have them. All inner city and urban areas across Manitoba should be happy to have families with children and pets in their neighborhoods, especially urban ones. Families and children breathe life into a neighborhood. And I don't think I need to go into the fact that some families do not have cars or the ability to live further out from schools and other services that they require. All right, Carruthers, letter of objection. Again, with the congested traffic in the area, I mean, I'm sure there's times where it is congested, and I don't want to dismiss these concerns whatsoever, but I have yet to see it, honestly, since especially the last meeting, I have done a deep dive into this issue. And also, I would like to note that the apartments sitting vacant near Walmart are not vacant because of lack of tenants. It's because of cost overruns affecting the completion of this project and the financial distress of the developer, which is why that entire area is under receivership right now. All right, on to the Murray objection letter. We've decreased our variances from last time, and I don't count it as 7 because 2 of them are a repeat, the side lots. So basically, we went from 10 to 6. They are minimal and reasonable, and it is based on financial viability of this project. We understand that the unknown is scary, and there are some questions that residents in the area have, and we are willing to work with anyone to make sure this is a success from construction to opening and thereafter. Okay, I've talked about the green space. I'm going to skip point 1. I've already addressed the volume of people parking on the street, so I'll move forward past point 2. I would like it noted again that parking cannot be made in the rear because the lane is unusable and, according to the city, unserviceable. I've been back and forth with planning and the city about meeting in the middle to service that back lane. I don't think as a property developer I should have to carry the full cost of putting gravel down, grading it properly, and paving an entire back lane. They have told me, as my first choice, parking cannot happen in the back, which is why it is in the front. Number 4, I've already addressed the myth of a reduction in property values due to this project. So I don't think we need to go into more detail about that. And with Mr. and Mrs. Nielsen's letter, I would like it noted that I cannot obviously speak for the city on the enforcement of parking bans for snow removal, but I can assure the residents of Tupper Street that our snow will be cleared properly in the areas that we can control, and that our tenants will be informed of parking ban days and reminded of them. That is how we operate in Winnipeg. It is never an issue. If it is an issue of lack of parking spaces and tenants need 2 spaces and they have 2 cars, they won't rent from us. That is a deal breaker for a lot of people. So you have to keep that in mind as well. I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Just before I close the public hearing, I just want to make sure there's no one else in the gallery that has any questions about this variance. No? Thank you. I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 3-24, VS Properties Inc., 51 Tupper Street, now be closed.
That is moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Porter. All those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, in front of you, you're going to see the request of variation that was just addressed by the property owner of, I believe, Ms. Klein Sarlis, if I got that correct. Thank you. And so the issue, of course, we know is not about rezoning. It's already a R3 residential multiple family zone, but is the variance is required in order to fulfill what their desired build is. So the request for variation is, first of all, there's also a site plan there for your information, and then you'll see a full sketch of the planned development. The issue is to vary the following. It's to site requirement areas of 929 square meters to be reduced down to 882 square meters. Site width requirement of 30.5 meters to be reduced to 27.408 meters. North side requirement of 4.6 meters to be reduced to 2.439 meters. South side requirement of 4.6 meters to be reduced to 2.439 meters. The rear yard requirement of 7.5 meters to be reduced to 5.061. Parking requirement of 12 stalls to be reduced to 9 stalls. And the maximum parking access width on the east side of the building of 10.7 meters to be increased to 27.408 meters. So as usual, our alternative is to approve the variation application as presented or to deny the variation application. I won't repeat the background, but as I indicated, the site plan and the sketch is there for your information. As indicated, the applicant seeks to build an 8-unit multifamily dwelling on an infill lot. As council is aware, the applicant had previously applied for the variances in relationship to a larger dwelling. That was denied at council meeting back a few meetings ago. Council has approved, administration has put it together, has approved similar requests in the past as follows. I won't go through all of the things, but the PC 1022 minutes are there for your information as to what is done previously. The application has been circulated to various city departments with no concerns. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius. I think we've recognized the letters in support, and we've also recognized the letters against. So it's an administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of VS Property Inc. to vary the following. I don't think it's prudent to repeat the whole thing, but it's there in front, except for the last line, which does add maximum parking access width on the east side of the building of 10.7 meters to be increased to 27.408 meters for an 8-unit multifamily dwelling on an infill lot at the property known as 51 Tupper Street South, which is legally described as lots 114, 115, 116, Plan 12 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
That's moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Porter. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if I can get some clarification on the parking. You had said 9 or 10 stalls. 9 would
Sorry.
include.
We can talk to planning and administration. Yeah, I'll just call you up if we need you, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
9 stalls would include 1 being a wheelchair accessible stall.
Sorry. Yep. Does maybe planning could answer that question?
That's correct. They would have 1 stall that is handicapped there. They could bump it up so they have 9 full stalls with 1 handicap accessible.
Okay, perfect. I just want to mention I spoke an objection to this project at the last meeting. I just thought it was too much in a space that was too small. But you've taken what we had said at our last meeting and gone back to the drawing board, and I will be in favor of this application.
Thank you. Councillor Porter?
I just have one.
So let's just remember, sorry, that we're in council now and out of the public hearing. So like talking to the applicant is, yeah, perfect.
Right. The only question I had was, is the refuse enclosure area still in the same place? I can't tell that.
Mr. Gessel?
I can't tell that by the second drawing. Not that, just out of curiosity.
You're asking about the garbage waste?
Right.
Yeah, that would be still contained by them. And what they've done is readjusted the side yardage so it's quite a bit bigger. And now instead of having entrances coming through the side, they have through the back and front, so which means they're going to have better access for garbage out front if required through the stalls.
Okay, thank you. And I have a comment now. So I would like to thank you, Ms. Sarlis, for bringing forward a new design, which addresses the previous concerns I had on this plan. The concerns were you fulfilled the reducing the overall size, the snow clearing. There is no variation now to the size of the parking stalls, more green space, and as council, one of our top 5 initiatives include encouraging positive infill that adds density and reinvestment in established neighborhoods. Not just this particular neighborhood, but all neighborhoods. And so while I appreciate that the residents may not feel some of the concerns are addressed, such as speeding and parking, I'm convinced that those issues are due to other reasons, such as a disregard to traffic speed and people using this route to avoid other areas that they're not comfortable maneuvering around, which is also adding to the problem. So this was an empty lot, and it was home to a once existing building, a hall, in fact, which was busy back in those days, and vacant lots are not easy to maintain. and unpleasing to a neighbor and does come with its challenges as a vacant lot. So any concerns that I have has now been met, and I feel was a sufficient compromise at the owner's expense. And so therefore, I will be in support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also spoke, quite heavily. I had several concerns when this first came up, and I think the applicant has done an excellent job reworking this plan, adjusting it, coming to within the limits that we have approved recently on 2 projects on Lorne Avenue and 1 on Tupper Street North. So for those reasons, I will be supporting this going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of quick comments, obviously in support of my my other council colleagues around the table. One, I just want for the record to note that I am a property owner within a 100-meter radius, and did receive the letter for the variance request as well. I did want to point out to council, which is probably sounds maybe a little moot at this point in time, but I was not available at the first variance request back when it was originally a 10-unit family dwelling, and I too just wanted to reach out to the applicant to indicate thank you for being able to come back, redesigning it to fulfill whatever council concerns were at that point in time. I did want to point out to this council as well that as a proponent that's in favor of downtown and downtown density, I think it's critical and imperative that we have units like this that want to go forward with developers that do want to produce them, and there has to be a return on investment. It is in the downtown corridor, and I wanted to read just one paragraph out of what the description of the downtown corridor is. It's higher density residential uses may be accommodated in the downtown corridor when they complement adjacent uses and mitigate incompatibilities, subject to appropriate zoning. Residential development that is part of a mixed-use commercial residential structure or planned development is encouraged, as is the residential use of vacant buildings and empty lots. So I think it fits perfectly within the description of what the downtown corridor is. The applicant has made every effort to appease any concerns. I do take concerns from citizens, whether they're in favor or against, very seriously, although I do look at the context and inside the letter itself. So I don't see anything in those letters that would indicate for me not to support this variance as it presents itself right now. In addition to the 9 stalls, I am okay with that. I think the 1-to-1 ratio or the 1.25 ratio, I think we've heard it many times in the past, is probably more equivalent to today's economy building structure, especially downtown corridor areas as well. So with that said, Madam Mayor, I do support the variance, or I will support the variance as presented in the report to council.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments that I have as well is I do agree with the applicant in the comment about backing out onto a street, is because it is true. Most of the homes that are there have driveways that drive in and you're backing out into a street. So I don't see any more risk than doing that. One piece of this that I really appreciate is the change in design with no balconies overlooking the side yards. I think we often hear that from people of it being a concern. And I think that this new change in design is definitely a positive in that way. 8 more dwellings downtown and 1 being affordable is commendable for a developer too. So I thank them for that, and I will be speaking in favor of this variation request as well. Anything else? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we will open our next public hearing for a request for variation PC 5-24 Kenmare Developments at 1525 Saskatchewan Avenue West, 715th Street Southwest. I will ask if there is anyone in the gallery here to speak in favor of the application. If you'd like to come to the podium and state your first and last name. And
hi there. I'm Kyle Kosnick, president of Kenmare Developments. I'm here to answer any questions and speak on support of the project.
Perfect. Kyle, could you please spell your last name for the record?
Yep, Kostenuk.
Perfect. Did you just have questions? You don't have a statement?
Just basically here to answer any questions. We're essentially doing a revision on our last approved parking variance. Now that design's got further and we're able to proceed with construction drawings, we have a few adjustments to the plan, which required that set adjustment for the parking.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask, are you intending to own and manage the building and the parking yourself, or are you building and selling the property to a third party to manage?
So this will be a third-party consultant for property management. So we'll maintain ownership and essentially hire out like a commercial property manager to manage the rental property.
Thank you.
Councillor Porter?
So the increase that you have of the units, or I should say the increase, increase in units, are they smaller units or more single units?
We've kind of refined the mixed use on it. So essentially, there's a makeup of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. I could get the actual mix between them, but basically it's about 2/3 of the 1s and about 1/3 of the 2s. So they're mix of 1 beds and 2 beds essentially. Some being studios and some being 1 beds, just difference in size.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's helpful.
Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further to that question from Councillor Porter, the original request you had was for how many units? And the new request is you're obviously changing the number of suites, therefore I get the new parking variation that we're going to discuss shortly. But what was the first original number of suites and what's the number of suites now?
Yep, original was 42 units. We did our typical economics, as I'm sure you've heard before, it didn't work. We had to increase the units. We didn't grow the density of building. We grew the quantity of units within the same density of building basically and added about 12 units.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I just have a question about, there's going to be commercial units on the bottom. How many of those?
Right now we're showing 6. Most likely it'll be between 1 and 2. But based on the size of the footprint on the main floor, you could do 6 tenants. Because an average tenant is like 15 to 2,000, unless we get like an office or something like that, which, 1 tenant could take the whole thing.
And any sort of thoughts as the developer as to what kind of, who you'd like to rent to in those spaces?
The main floor, we haven't got a tenant yet. We haven't explored that. We want to get past the approvals to make sure it's going to happen, and then, search for commercial tenant spaces. We did have a nail salon reach out, as well as one food person. I can't remember what the food person's name was, but we haven't approached that with seriousness yet.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? No? We'll let you know if we have any more questions. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. I'll ask if there's anyone in the gallery here to speak against this variation. No? I'll ask for the letter of objection to be read out, please.
There is one letter of objection from Neil Wincup at the screen door. He says, my concern is with parking. This was a concern before I seen this application. We go from about 26 nose-in parking spaces between 16th and 17th Street down to about 3 or 4, I believe, just on the south side of the avenue alone. If you drive by at any time during the day, you will see we are already at maximum capacity with customers already having to park down the side streets. If this apartment is built with less parking spaces than required, people will be forced to either park in front of the business or down the side streets and have to walk. I could imagine this would also frustrate the residents that like to use the parking space outside of their homes for extra family vehicles or company. I am all for growth in the community, but I think the parking does need to be taken into consideration. If anything, extra parking spaces should be considered. Any chance the builder would consider underground parking for their tenants? This is pretty typical to see in bigger cities. Take Winnipeg, for example. Lots of their apartments along Portage Avenue have underground parking. They would still have outside parking for some of the business around this area. Thank you for your time. Neil Wincup.
Thank you. I'll just ask if anybody has any more questions for the applicant before we move to close the public hearing. No? Okay, ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 5-24, Kenmare Developments, Inc., 1525 Saskatchewan Avenue West and 7 15th Street Southwest now be closed.
That is moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Espy. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. File number PC 5-24, a request for variation. We know that this has come up in front of us before in a different concept, but the issue here is to vary just the parking requirement of 98 stalls to be reduced to 57 stalls in a C3 Avenue commercial zone. The background, as you heard from the applicant, is applying for a variation order to vary the parking requirement of the 98 stalls to be reduced to 57 in that C3 Avenue commercial zone. Applicant seeks to develop a vacant lot with a mixed-use building on Saskatchewan Avenue. Previous application was approved by council. The minute reference is there for your information. In addition to a revised site plan and sketch for your information as well. The application has been circulated to the various city departments with comments regarding a development agreement. The applicant has since been in contact with the city and they are currently working on that actual agreement. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within 100-meter radius. And as you note, for the record, we did have the one letter of objection. So with that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Kenmare Development, Inc. to vary the parking requirement of 98 stalls to be reduced to 57 stalls in a C3 Avenue commercial zone at the property known as 1525 Saskatchewan Avenue West and 7 15th Street Southwest, which is legally described as lots 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, Plan 15, Parish of Portage la Prairie, with the condition that a development agreement be signed with the City of Portage la Prairie.
That is moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just get some insight into what the development agreement is?
Mr. Pito?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Meyer. So the development agreement would encompass three main items. As you can see on the screen, there is a public back lane indicated. So the developer is using that as their primary access to parking. So there would be a requirement of the developer to pave that back lane for the users to access the parking lot. The second component also related to the back lane would be a requirement of the developer to maintain the back lane for snow clearing purposes. So the city would not take on the snow clearing responsibilities of that back lane. The developer would take on that responsibility. The final component is, as you see on the diagram, 16th Street. You have parking that opens out into the streetway. So as you are clearing snow with a grader, you plow along and you would leave a windrow behind those vehicles. Although we do our best, if you have a foot of snow or a large amount of snow, you could leave a fair amount of snow behind those vehicles. In that agreement, it will also discuss the property owner's responsibility to clear away that snow. The city crews are not going to come back or not guaranteeing that we can come back and clear that. It's important when we do this type of parking that the property developers understand that is their responsibility. Otherwise, we will get a number of complaints, obviously, to city departments. And those are the three main components. There'll be some other subtle items, but those are the primary responsibilities, Councilor Meyer.
Thank you, Worship, or thank you, Your Worship, and Mr. Peel. The only comment I really want to make to it, again, it seems that parking always becomes an issue. I do want to point out to council that this as well is in the downtown development corridor, which we do talk about density, and of course it's the same argument almost as previously. So I will be supporting the motion as it is for the reduction in stalls, taking in consideration again the applicant, or not the applicant, the objection letter, which I do take very seriously, but I don't believe there's enough context there for me to have any reason to deny it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Espy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for clarification on 16th Street Southwest again. Those vehicles would back directly onto the street and there would be no sidewalk on the edge of the property line as there would have been normally?
Mr. Pito?
Through your worship, Councillor Espy, perhaps I could ask our Director of Operations or Mr. Geisel to answer that question. I can't quite see that on the diagram from where my vantage point is.
As far as that goes on 16th Street there, alongside the building, in front of the stalls would be a sidewalk. So pedestrians and people coming out of their vehicles to the apartment would have access. In a sense, it is pretty much the parking lot connected. It would have to be lined out so there is a zone that they know motorcycles, bicycles, such forth shouldn't be streamlining through there, right? Vehicles would be backing out or pulling forward, depending which way they're parked in their stall, onto 16th Street.
There is currently no sidewalk on 16th Street, so we wouldn't be putting one in.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Espy?
Sort of, but I have another question based on the answer. So the not normally putting one in, wouldn't we require one once that block is developed?
Through your worship to Councillor Espy. So as Mr. Geisel mentioned, it will be a sidewalk. So obviously we are having substantial active transportation and sidewalk along Saskatchewan Avenue. If you see the intersect where the handicap spots are in the top corner there, there will be a sidewalk along the outside of that property that will go, which is actually on property. But no, there wouldn't be a requirement of a continuation of the sidewalk as you go down 16th Street, as that is a residential area that does not currently have sidewalks. And we wouldn't require the extension of a sidewalk that's not currently there on that block. I'll allow the Director of Operations if she had any other additional comments.
Good. So ultimately, between the building and the parking would be the sort of public, yeah, gotcha. Semi-public. Semi-public, right. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. We'll move into Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has no report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning Economic Development Committee has nothing at this point, but something else further down on the agenda.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation has nothing to report until further down on new business.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. We have no items of deferred business. We'll move right into new business, and we will move right into our 2024 budget speech. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship and fellow members of Council, it is my pleasure and honor as Chair of Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee to present to you the 2024 City of Portage la Prairie budget. Before I spend a few minutes outlining the deliberations that we made, I want to first of all thank a few people. I want to first of all thank our Mayor. Your Worship, you and I met on the budget, preliminary with staff. Your priorities and some of the things that you were very passionate about, I think, are reflected in this budget, and I just want to acknowledge, and your leadership certainly helped me understand some of the issues, and it's in this budget, and I really appreciated your leadership on that. I want to thank my colleagues on council. You have been a great team to work with on this budget. You were direct, caring for your community, and I think that your deliberations and part of this budget, I feel very confident that this budget is something we will all be proud of. I want to thank our administration, our city manager, Nathan Pito, our director of corporate services, Jen Sadney, and all the department heads, management team, all the staff that put hours and hours looking at this, giving council options to come up with this document that we have today. So although this will be a few minutes in length in terms of the budget speech, the work that our administration team did with this on this budget was phenomenal. I want to acknowledge them. We have reached the final year of construction for the Saskatchewan Avenue project. The $41 million multi-year investment included the renewal of utility infrastructure, enhanced land drainage systems, sidewalks, parking spaces, medians, boulevards, and bike paths. While this project has involved the planning of prior councils, the improvements to both the active transportation network and the aesthetics fall within the current council's strategic plan initiatives, specifically quality of life and showcasing our community. As a reminder, and I think this is very important, this project has been funded through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program in partnership with the federal and provincial governments, with the city contributing the balance of the funds for this project. This partnership, along with the planning of both our current and prior councils, has resulted in the investment being completed without the need to increase taxes for this project. And that's a great accomplishment in today's world of municipal government. Investing in our infrastructure. In total, the city plans to expend $25.7 million on capital projects and purchases in 2024. While the Saskatchewan Avenue West project is the largest of the investments currently planned for 2024, the budget also includes large investments to our utility infrastructure, which align with council strategic initiatives related to economic opportunity. These investments include upgrades to the water pollution control facility. The city has secured funding through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program for the upgrade to the water pollution control facility. We will continue to work with the province to overcome the obstacles that have delayed progress on this project. And for more information regarding this project, please visit the projects page on our website. The city looks forward to continuing to work with our partners, the province of Manitoba, and our regional industries to ensure we are building facilities that have the capacity for our future growth while meeting our environmental responsibilities. And again, please see our projects page on the City of Portage la Prairie website for updates as these initiatives move forward. Other capital projects that we are involved in addition to the completion of the Saskatchewan Avenue West project and ongoing work on the water pollution control facility, the city is working in partnership with the Manitoba Water Services Board to complete the detailed design of the expanded water treatment plant. This project is in alignment with Council's strategic plan initiatives related to economic opportunities. This $3 million project is being funded at 50% by the Manitoba Water Services Board, while the city will be responsible for the balance. This is the first step as part of the larger project for the expansion of the water treatment plant to increasing the city's capacity for producing treated water. As part of Council's strategic plan initiatives, quality of life and the development of great neighborhoods was identified as a priority. The city will be investing in the design and construction of a new street in preparation for the development of the former Agassiz land. An application for grant funding through the Municipal Economic Development Infrastructure Program for the $2 million project has been submitted to the province. Other capital projects of note. First of all, completion of Phase 2 of the accessibility project of City Hall, including installation of a lift from the main floor to the second floor, upgrades to the council chamber, and installation of an accessible washroom. Secondly, completion of City Hall renovations, including both interior and exterior paint, interior and exterior lighting, flooring, replacement and reconfiguration of front service counter, and repairs to the northwest entryway, stairs, and doors. Thirdly, completion of renovations to the fire hall, which includes the office, operations, and maintenance areas within the facility. Fourth, replacement of the Fire Rescue Command vehicle. Fifth, continued enhancements to our generator capabilities to ensure we can provide power to our infrastructure in extreme weather events, similar to the 2019 winter storm. Sixth, assisting with the design and rebuilding Coco Platts Community Center. 7, contribution to the Junkyard Dog Cycle Park project to secure the new site with proper fencing. 8, installation of a concrete sidewalk to connect the new Saskatchewan Avenue West sidewalk to the West Park School, an intersection at Walmart. And 9th, enhancement of existing Garrick Creek Trails infrastructure. I want to talk about community partnerships and grants. The city works with a variety of partners in delivering services to its residents and businesses. A complete listing of funding to be provided to community and partnership organization and city committees will be posted on the city's website in the following days. In total, $2.45 million is being expended in this area. We will be contacting each organization who applied for this funding to notify them of Council's decision regarding their application. I just want to highlight the great work all of these community groups do for our city is amazing, and I think this money is well spent in the development of their programs and services. And I want to highlight one in particular this year is the Business Storefront Improvement Grant, which helps business owners in Portage la Prairie improve the face of their businesses by providing funds for exterior building upgrades. In addition to improving the appearance of an individual building, these upgrades are expected to contribute to overall business enhancement. The Business Storefront Improvement Grant is a matching grant offered by the City of Portage la Prairie that will provide up to 50% of the project cost with a maximum municipal contribution of $3,000 per project. And last year it was $2,000, and this council has upped it to $3,000 to show you the value of this program. And the total fund for this program has been increased from $15,000 this year, is increased to $15,000 this year, up from $10,000 last year. So please watch our website for more information on how to apply for this program. Community safety. As part of the Council's strategic plan, community safety and well-being has been identified as one of the top 5 initiatives. 2024 will see the implementation of a community safety officer program. The intent of the CSO program is to enhance public safety, reduce the impacts of crime in our community, and improve the city's relationship with our businesses. As was highlighted in the December 11th, 2023 council meeting, additional public safety funding from the province was received in 2023, was earmarked to fund the expected upfront capital expenditures for the program in 2024. Great news for our city that we are going to have a community safety officer program in place. We continue to partner with the RCMP and the school division to fund our school liaison officer program, offering additional support to students, parents, and teachers in our region. I want to now talk about expanding staff complement due to growing infrastructure and increased building assets. In recognition of the city's growing infrastructure and increasing number of building assets, Council is adding 2 positions to our workforce. The first is an additional staff member in our facility maintenance division, responsible for the ongoing maintenance and repair of our utility assets, as well as other city-owned facilities. This will increase our ability to perform preventative maintenance, which reduces the likelihood of critical failures occurring. It's no different than our own homes. When we do preventative work, it saves money in the long run, and that's what we're doing here with this additional staff person. The second will be an additional transportation division employee responsible for road maintenance and snow clearing. The new position will result in additional frontline resources to address transportation-related issues. I want to now talk about our new snow clearing strategy. As part of the 2024 budget, funding has been allocated to improve snow clearing along Saskatchewan Avenue. The city is working in partnership with the province of Manitoba to double the current service level for removing built-up snow from parking lanes and snowbanks on the sidewalks along Saskatchewan Avenue. As stated previously, we have increased our staff complement in our transportation department to assist with providing a higher level of service to our citizens. We will continue to work with our businesses to communicate the snow clearing expectation on property frontages. As a reminder to our citizens, when we have a significant snowfall event, our first priority is always our main roads that provide access to our hospitals, schools, and essential services. Once those are clear, we will move on to our secondary and residential areas, and these will be cleared on the day following your waste collection day. Please ensure you are not parking on the street on these days, and remember to bring your garbage cans and recycle bins in. The Council would like to take this opportunity to thank our staff for their excellent work after the last major snowfall event, and I think all of us on Council got very positive comments about that work, and we thank our staff and know that you are appreciated for the work you did. Your Worship, Council members, great initiatives. So how does this impact our 2024 property taxes? 2024 is not a general assessment year. If the assessed value of a property has not changed due to significant renovations, construction of new buildings, or demolition of existing buildings, owners can expect to see the municipal portion of their property taxes increase by 1.74%. Reserve allocations have been increased as part of the 2024 budget. As a result of inflationary impacts seen across all sectors and within our citizens' homes, it is prudent to increase these allocations to prepare for the future infrastructure costs and capital requirements. Due to the province increasing the municipal operating grant funds, we have been able to achieve this with minimal impact to our taxpayers. Impacts of changes to the provincial education tax rebate. Very important that people understand the change this year that they'll see on their tax forms. Property owners can expect to see changes to the way the province of Manitoba is issuing the education rebate to property owners. As part of a media release issued in December of 2023, the province indicated that they will no longer be mailing out checks to property owners, but will be applying the discount directly to your property tax statements. This will result in most properties seeing a reduction in the net taxes on their property tax statements. So you will no longer be getting a check in the mail. It'll come right off your property tax statement. So please watch for that change. In summary, the 2024 budget. First point, for the general fund, the net operating budget is $13.5 million and the capital budget is $16.4 million. Secondly, for the utility fund, the net operating budget is $16.3 million and the capital budget is $9.25 million. As I mentioned, this proposed budget will result in an increase of 1.73% to property owners' municipal taxes. And I want to emphasize this point, substantially lower than the current level of annual inflation. The year-over-year increase for a residential property with an assessed value of $250,000 for both 2023 and 2024 will be $40.28, which is approximately $3.36 per month. That will be the impact on your tax bill. The next step in our 2024 budget process will be to await receipt of the Portage la Prairie School Division's budget. This is used to finalize our financial plan and determine the total mill rate. Your final tax bill will be impacted by the province of Manitoba's decisions to discontinue issuing rebate checks for the education portion of your property taxes. In 2024, you will see the rebate applied directly on your tax bill. We are expecting to complete our 2024 financial plan by April, and after a public hearing to approve this document, submission to the provincial government will occur. Your tax bill will be mailed to you by early June, and as usual, we will provide you with various tools to calculate your 2024 taxes in advance on the city's website. colleagues, in 2024 budget speech will be posted on the city's website in the next few days. I want to say in conclusion that I am proud of the teamwork between city administration and city council to put forward a progressive budget that continues in a number of areas. First, to encourage sustainable growth through development of great neighborhoods. Secondly, to further develop and enhance our recreational and cultural opportunities, green spaces, and expand our active transportation network. Third, investment in community safety and well-being. Fourth, strong investment in our infrastructure to encourage economic investment in our community. Fifth, investment in beautification projects to showcase our community. And finally, and importantly, respects our citizens' ability to pay in these difficult inflationary times. Again, thank you to my fellow council members, to Mayor Knox for your support of this budget, and I look forward to accomplishing great things for our beautiful community of Portage la Prairie with all of you in the 2024. Thank you, and your worship, I have a resolution to move with your permission.
Thank you.
I move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the 2024 City of Portage la Prairie budget as presented in the budget speech.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments from council? I will just, since Councillor Massey handed out all the kudos to everyone else, that I think he deserves some props here for working very hard on this budget. And I think someone earlier used a term of doing a deep dive, and I think that that's what you do for this, Councillor Massey, and really making sure that you help us understand where we're going and working with all the staff. So kudos to that. So thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried. Just so everyone sees, there is a listing of all of those community organizations as well. So just maybe I'll just note on that too, is there, we know that not probably a lot of citizens aren't going to read Councillor Massey's full budget speech, even though they might, but we will be providing many forms of information for citizens to understand the budget speech going forward, because we want to make sure everybody understands the parts that are important to them and the parts that are important to our city as a whole. So thank you. Okay, another item of new business. We have a request for extension for variation PC 4-24 Ken McIver at 435 Crescent Road East. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. In your report to council, you'll see that this is simply just an extension of an approval that was made back in February 27th of 2023. For council's awareness, the Planning Act does state that a variance order ceases after 12 months if it's not acted upon, but there is a ability to request a longer period if an application is received before the initial deadline, which in this case it was. You will see the original Planning Act variation order there attached from March of 2023. So with that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the request of Ken McIver to extend the original variation order, which was PC 6-23, at the property on 435 Crescent Road, which is legally described as Lot 6, Block 8, Plan 21-428 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Any questions or comments on the extension? All those in favor? And that is carried. Another item of new business, the 2023 Solid Waste Annual Report for information from Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is for information only. It's from the Operations Department. Read the 2023 Solid Waste Annual Report. So the city funds and operates several solid waste programs, including residential solid waste collection, curbside recycling, curbside yard waste collection, a compost site, tree burning site, hazardous household waste disposal, electric electronic waste disposal, and the clean team. 972,363 kilograms, or approximately 73 kilograms per person, of residential recyclable waste material was diverted from the landfill. The curbside yard waste program saw approximately 17,736 bags of compostable yard waste being picked up in May and October. This is up from 15,271 bags in 2022. During the Christmas tree pickup program, a total of 146 Christmas trees were recycled and approximately 192,530 kilograms of tree waste was taken to the burn site throughout the year. Portage and District Recycling, Inc. accepts all designated household hazards waste and e-waste. The total of all residential solid waste, including garbage, recyclables, yard waste, trees for 2023 was 5,032 tons, with 1,632 tons being diverted from the landfill. This diversion rate for the residential solid waste was 32.4%. So attached, you can also view the full version of the year-end diversion report, breaking down the solid waste, the recyclables, and yard waste, as well as the trees. So solid waste diversion. Why we do this? Well, it helps reduce the impact of solid waste going to our landfill, which in turn reduces our greenhouse emissions that contribute to global climate change. By doing this, we help sustain the environment for future generations. Many things we throw away are recyclable, reusable, and it's called circular economy for the production of new products. An example would be e-waste. Batteries, electronics, chemicals, ink cartridges, all of these contain valuable resources that can be repurposed. These contain toxic materials that can leach into the soil and make their way into the groundwater or cause fires in our landfills. Oh, well, there's one in our city guide that caught fire. Something's at the landfill. You can see that picture in there. More information on recycling, go to the City of Portage website, City of Portage la Prairie website, go to departments, down to operations, click on solid waste, and scroll to recycling. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Porter? Thank you. Okay, we have one item of old business. We have the third reading of bylaw 23-8750 for zoning amendment PC 5-23 for Romano adjacent to 229 Caledonia Street. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And council, in front of you is a rezoning application where tonight is just the third reading. The issue originally back in
2022? No.
Yeah, pretty close. February 27th of 2023 started the process as defined in the Planning Act in considering the application. And it was to rezone the property from OR, or which is open space recreational zone, to R160 residential single family zone. You will see the bylaw and the Schedule A and of course the sketch of the property as well for your information. So what happens is that the first zoning, our first reading of the bylaw took place February 27th, which commenced the process as described. The documents are then circulated to the provincial departments. There had been no objections at that time. Provincial planning had recommended approval of the zoning bylaw amendment. There was then a hearing that was held on April 24th of 2023 at Council of the City of Portage la Prairie gave second reading at that point in time for the bylaw. And now third reading can now commence once the property has been registered, and the property has now been registered. So that's what we're doing tonight, and it's administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the application to rezone the land known as adjacent to 229 Caledonia Street, Parish of Portage la Prairie from OR, or Open Space Recreational Zone, to R160 Residential Single Family Zone, and that bylaw number 23-8750 be read a third time, finally passed, signed, and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. We will adjourn council at 7:25 p.m. and we will move right into committee. Once I what's going on? Sorry. Show me your sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, my apologies. We will call committee to order at 7:26 p.m. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has no report for committee this evening.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I'm really excited tonight to introduce a couple of individuals. For those of you that aren't aware, of course, PRED, or Portage Regional Economic Development, tourism falls underneath their mandate, and we've talked about it before in regards to the Portage Tourism Committee, which falls underneath the auspices of PRED. Through those organizations, we were able to engage both Margaret Egan and Mary Agnes Welch, who have put together a tourism committee presentation for council's information tonight. So I've seen the presentation. I'm pretty excited to see what we've got tonight. So at this point, I believe I would either like to turn it over to Pred, or if I could just invite up both Margaret Egan and Mary Agnes Welch.
Thank you. If you come to the podium and we'll make sure it's on.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, good evening, Your Worship.
You just because you're on, you are right live on Shaw TV, so
Perfect.
just want to make sure that you can hear you. Yeah. Thanks.
Can I ask one question? We have slides. You're going to do this? Perfect. Okay, got that. Thank you. I am Margaret Egan. I'll introduce all of us in just a minute, but we very much appreciate your asking us to come here tonight. Councillor Meyer, thank you very much for that nice introduction, so I don't have to tell you that. But basically, we, since September, Mary Agnes and I, along with another colleague, and you want to turn the slide, there we go, our statistician, Wilf Falk, who is in fact the former chief statistician of the province. So he knows his numbers, and luckily we had him on board. We did a project alongside our client, Kelly Verway, who is the tourism coordinator, as you know, for Portage. And we were asked to do two things. We were asked to calculate the size of the economic size of the value of tourism. We were also then asked to look forward and to recommend the strategies. Now, behind this was the fact, of course, that from the PRTC strategy report, you have a very ambitious, a doable, but a very ambitious goal to become recognized as one of Manitoba's most desirable tourism locations. What we're going to do tonight is to concentrate on the numbers, concentrate on the calculate. As most of you know, there is a much larger meeting next week on the 21st of February where we will go through not the full report, because that's 70-odd pages, but the highlights, and concentrate then on the recommendations. Just to let you know, we are presenting to you tonight as the council leadership of the city of Portage la Prairie. We're doing a similar presentation in the morning to the RM. So all of you get to see this, a little sneak peek before the public presentation next week. So next slide. Thank you very much. What did we do? We started off, as I said, in September, and we first of all measured and calculated. Mary Agnes will tell you in a moment how we did this. We then consulted quite extensively, and several of you in this room were among those people that we interviewed. We also did a load of site visits, accompanied mostly by Kelly on that, to get a sense of what is the visitor experience? What is the visitor experience in Portage? We also did a community survey. We did this online, and we wanted to get a kind of a more informal take. And we asked people, when you have visitors to Portage, where do you take them? What do you show them? What's good? And we had 300 responses to that, which was very informative and began to engage people in the whole idea that tourism is something they should be thinking about as well. If the consult part was very much aimed at Portage and people in Portage, we then wanted to look outside. We looked at global trends, national trends. We looked at some nearby communities to see what they were doing, basically in the sense of lessons learned. What are other people doing that you in Portage can learn from? We then took all of that together and created basically what we will show you next week, but just to give you a little taster, we came up with 5 main recommendations. The PRTC had already identified a couple of core areas, 4 core areas that you thought were particularly strong. We agreed, and we have melded in our recommendations within those. And just to tell you what they are sports tourism, agri-tourism, Indigenous tourism, and ecotourism. You've got assets in all. Some need to be more developed, but they are really outstanding assets, and we'll talk more about that next week. Next slide, please. Not yet. This is more about the strategy, but we felt it's important to say this before we go on to the numbers. And the question here is why? I mean, is this important? Why is it important? Why is it important that tourism be seen as part of economic development and needs support for that and attention to that? Basically, tourism has 2 benefits. The first one is all about the revenue. The first one you can count, and we'll show how we did that. The first one does things like create and support and grow a sustainable tourism industry. You've got a good one already. It could be better. And with more tourists coming in, more support, that can be done. On the other side, though, and this is not something you can usually put numbers to, but interestingly, and it's been mentioned several times tonight, showcasing your community. This very much is one of the benefits of tourism, maybe an intangible one. It's interesting, we're following the budget for the coming year, and obviously growth is a theme that comes through here and making things better. Showcasing your community is part of that. And not only to visitors, you don't want to stop just having them come in and see, wow, this is fun, this event is fun, etc. There are all sorts of other constituencies, if you like, where being a visitor as maybe the first or second encounter is going to bring alive your community, show your quality of life, show what you're about, basically give some personality in that to the narrative, to the brand that you are trying to put forward and to grow. Interestingly, the stakeholders that we talk to are very much in line with this. And one of the things we talk to stakeholders about is what needs to be done to make this a reality, to realize these benefits. We had a lot of quotes, but this one we thought encapsulated a lot of these things. And let me just read it to you. This person said, "We haven't really laid out the benefit, the value of tourism. It's not just the revenue.
Microphone.
It's not just more events." Whoops, am I out of reach? Let me start over. We really haven't laid out the benefit of tourism, the value of tourism. It's not just the revenue, it's not just more events. It's those things like recreation, the museum, the nicer shops, the protecting our rural way of life, which came up quite a lot. They're for us too, for the residents. And one of the points that we're very keen to make is what's good for the residents is what's also appealing to the tourists that come through. And where do we start finding out more about that? We start with the numbers. Mary Agnes?
Hi, folks. I'm the numbers nerd on this project. Maggie's sort of the big thinker, and I'm in the weeds on the numbers. And in some ways, the number on these economic impact projects, it boils down to kind of 1 or 2 key figures that I know Eve and Kelly were really eager to see. So I'll give you a sneak peek of those important figures in just a moment. But I want to tell you a little bit about how we got there, because it's a little bit of a mystery sometimes how we create these economic impact studies. And this one was a little tricky because smaller communities don't often have readily available data that we can pull on and use to do this kind of economic modeling. So we did a few things. First of all, we really focused on heads and beds. We didn't count day trippers, partly because we just don't have great counts, and that's one of our recommendations going forward. Count those day trippers, count those drive-through folks, but it's pretty easy to count the number, or at least estimate the number of heads and beds, and that includes campgrounds. Campgrounds are a surprisingly big part of, especially the outside of Portage, the rural municipality impacts. But there's quite a large number of folks that do come into camp. The next part of it is you estimate what people spend on the stuff that we all spend on when we travel: accommodation, meals, beer, VLTs, nights out, tickets to a Terriers game, all of those kinds of things that you do when you're traveling somewhere. And we created some estimates, very conservative estimates, to really figure out what that total spend is. And then Will Falk, the province's former chief statistician, steps in and does the modeling. And you apply multipliers to each of those big spending figures, and you try to figure out how much of that direct spending stays in the province, what its spin-off effects are, wage respending, indirect spending, all of these kind of key economic impact terms. And you also try to calculate the taxes, the jobs, the labor income, all of these kind of key figures that go into it. And the cool thing about this project, actually the really cool thing for us nerds, was that in this project we actually created a tool. And it's a fancy way of saying a spreadsheet, but we created a Portage specific spreadsheet that Eve and Kelly can use going forward to measure change over time quite easily. We've done all the back end work, and even Kelly and the PRTC can do the front end work, kind of playing with the numbers, playing with those estimates a little bit. And that's a tool that will stay and essentially keep kind of paying dividends over time, and that frankly Portage can export to other communities because nobody else has something like this. Just a couple of cautions here. These are estimates. They're always estimates. They're definitely estimates in this case, but they are really conservative estimates. And if anybody wants to nerd out with me, I can later on or on the 21st tell you what some of those estimates are, and you can see how conservative we were. So here's the actual numbers that we care about. I think, let me do it. Yep, there we go. The GDP number, almost $30 million in GDP, money that stays in the Manitoba economy from visitors, campers, and hotel guests to Portage. And this is the GDP impact for the province as a whole. It's really important to just give you that caveat. On these kind of modeling things, it's almost impossible to figure out how much of that stays in Portage proper. A big chunk of it, obviously, but we only have Portage or Manitoba-wide modeling that we can do. And that is based on 125,000 visitors. You get 125,000 people staying in hotels in a 1-year period in Portage. That's not even including the campers. We had to count them a different way, person days of visits. It's a whole other complicated thing. But at the very least, there's 125,000 visitors in a year. That's a lot. 445 jobs, direct jobs, spin-off jobs, induced jobs in the province as a whole, most of those in Portage. It's tricky to figure out how many exactly in Portage, but almost 450 jobs are created by visitors to the community. Last one, $6.5 million in tax revenue, including about $800,000 to local governments. Not just the RM in the city, all local governments, but most of that again would stay in the Portage, in the RM and the city. Property taxes, business taxes, and of course the accommodation tax. Those are kind of the big sexy numbers, and it takes so much time to get to those kind of straightforward numbers. And those are the numbers that we'll be talking a little bit more about next week when we kind of unveil the full report. Do I have one more slide? I think I do. There's the Portage model in case anybody wants to look at it. This is the tool that Eve and Kelly will be using. It's in much more detail in our final report, but it's all the back end work is done, as I mentioned, and those are some of the, in yellow, are some of the assumptions that we've made that they can fiddle with as they go forward and grow tourism in the region. That's it. Questions, feedback? Hope we made it to our 10 minutes. We did. Yeah.
Awesome. Does anybody have questions? No? I just have a quick question. So, and I'll be there next week, so we'll learn more, but very thankful for this. This is exciting to have some concrete sort of numbers in front of us. How where you must have talked and met with lots of like sort of businesses, restaurant owners, like hoteliers, that sort of thing. How was that process for you in our community? Were they excited about learning more? And yeah.
For getting this.
Thank you.
On TV. Absolutely thrilled to be asked. Absolutely thrilled that this is being taken forward as an objective. The interviews that we did they were one-on-one. Some were live, some were remote. They were quite practical. There was no kind of airy-fairy, good idea, ba-da-da-da. It was all about, this is the kind of thing I need. This is where my barrier is. This is what I could do if I had more resources, time. One of the things that came up very, very strongly was collaboration. There's a sense that, and tell me if I'm taking too much of your time here, but it's an interesting finding. Each one of the asset owners or managers told us that they could certainly see growth in what they were doing, and they could also see partnering with others to do that. So create a whole, if you like, visitor surround, a complete experience. What was the barrier to doing that was their own lack of time and resources, number one, but equally the lack of an organization, a person, something that would bring that together to sit them around a table and saying, you've got this, I've got that, can we collaborate on this, how do we bring it out? So certainly there is huge anticipation, I think, to see that something is going to be done. The project has set up expectations without doubt. People expect something will be done, but certainly in terms of the stakeholders that you have got supporting this, they're overwhelmingly positive on this.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to really, again, you don't really understand the impact until you sometimes see the numbers. And I'm also a numbers guy as well. So when it puts it into perspective, it realizes the importance of tourism. And we know that council is taking tourism extremely serious. And even my own conversations with a number of business owners, they say, I don't care what you do, just keep bringing them in. I think it's really important to understand that. But with that said, I just want to take the opportunity and thank, of course, Mary Margaret Egan from Director and Project Strategy Lead from Sinclair Barnes Unlimited, and of course, Mary Agnes Welch from Probe Research for coming out tonight. And I know you're going to dazzle the RM tomorrow morning on that as well. And certainly to our tourism coordinator, Kelly Verwey, I do know the effort and work she puts into it. And of course, falling underneath the umbrella of our PRED department and Economic Development Officer, Eva Leary. So I got excited about it. If I get excited about it, it gets exciting.
Yeah, because you never get excited
Never.
about things. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Okay, we'll move into Community Services Committee. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship. It was a wonderful presentation, and the Community Services Committee follows that up with something as exciting.
Yeah.
The annual appointment of the Municipal Noxious Weeds Inspector. And we do that every year. This one looks a lot like last year, and that will come up at the next council meeting. And that is all I have, but I would like to invite my council colleagues if they have anything for the Community Services Committee.
Perfect. Does anyone have anything for community services? I don't know where it falls. It sounds like it falls under community services, wouldn't you say? Today's a very exciting day. Margaret, Mary Agnes, you're here. It's Portage la Prairie's 117th birthday today. Very exciting. I thought you said today. It's tomorrow. I've been telling everybody all day it was today, so anyway. Yeah. Okay, so, but I do have a letter here that I want to read from the Manitoba Historical Society. It says, Dear Mayor Knox, congratulations on 117 years for Portage la Prairie. On behalf of the Manitoba Historical Society, I'm very pleased to offer congratulations to you and the City of Portage la Prairie on your celebration of 117 years since your incorporation as a city and signing of the city charter. Of course, your history extends back many years before that time, then becoming a town in 1880 and a few decades later, a city and still growing. I recall happy days visiting my cousins in Portage and fond memories of Island Park. No doubt your 117 celebrations will be enjoyable and a time to reflect on both the many memories that make up the history of the community as well as a speculation on the future you forge the present history. So that was from Dan Ferlin from the Manitoba Historical Society. So happy birthday, the City of Portage la Prairie, tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Porter.
Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Your Worship, Transportation has nothing to report, but I would like a request, I'm asking a request of management to possibly give us a quick review on our pothole process.
Mr. Pito or?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Porter, I'll ask our Director of Operations to answer it, but I will make the comment that we don't usually have a pothole program in February. This year has been somewhat different, and our crews have reacted very positively and have, we're actually filling potholes in February for the first time, but I'll let our Director of Operations speak more about our pothole program and how it works.
Sure. So as the snow melts and the frost comes out of the ground, we get the potholes popping up around town. What we do when the weather is still, fairly cold is we use a cold mix asphalt to fill them. That's not a permanent solution, but it helps with people not falling into those potholes and gets the road more level temporarily. Until we get into the summer months when we can do a proper patch.
Okay, thank you for that. And so do we have a schedule, or is it just coming a schedule going around town, or is this something we're waiting to hear from the community if there's concerns over the potholes on their street?
Yeah, we do. I mean, our crews are out around town, so we know where a lot of them are, but yes, we definitely do appreciate people letting us know as well. So people can call the operations office or use the service request app to let us know about those.
Thank you very much. And yeah, so spring is around the corner, so we'll be getting ready for it shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Worship. Just while we're on transportation, I just had a question for administration. We do know that there are so many access points from, I'll say, the south side of Portage, of course, to the north side of Portage. And I know we talked about not wanting any residents, of course, to cross over train tracks and so on. So with those limited points, I had a couple of citizens that have reached out to me in regards to our snow clearing ability on the overpass. Now, I get two things. One, I do know it's a provincial responsibility. And I do know that those people have reached out to the province. They've also reached out to operations, and operations has done everything that they can. And then, of course, the province just turns it right back over to saying that they don't have the sources or the resources or the ability to clean it. So my only concern really is just on the overpass. And I know the city did a heck of a job in our snow clearing strategy. We invested time and effort. We've had a great partnership with the province in order to clean Saskatchewan Avenue and doing that. But my concern is the sidewalks over that overpass. Obviously, when they clear it, of course, they push the snow out. I get that, and it just fills up those sideways. You can't walk underneath because you're obviously violating the law by crossing over a railway track. So I was just wondering if there's any conversation that we've had with the province or any solution in place that we can address that in the same timely fashion that we've been able to address the Saskatchewan Avenue project, or the Saskatchewan Avenue clearing as well.
I can just quickly speak to this, that I've had citizens' concern as well. And on February 8th of 2023, we received a letter from the province stating that they would be responsible for that sidewalk, right? And we know we've had some issues after the last, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of snow, but when we did, it wasn't cleaned. And so I do know that we asked to reach back out to them to see if we would, how they were holding up to their commitments. So Mr. Pito could speak on that.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, you're absolutely correct. It is a responsibility of the province. We continue, when we get concerns, we do pass from the public. We do pass those on to the province. We're continuing to have discussions with the province. The biggest challenge, and I'll just mention these comments on behalf of the province, is that is a very narrow sidewalk. You wouldn't build a bridge or a sidewalk like that nowadays. The equipment needed is somewhat specialized, and then of course, once you have moved the snow, you're not permitted to just throw it down onto the railroad tracks for obvious reasons. So we're continuing to have discussions with the MI on the concerns. We do hear the concerns of the public. We're proactively trying to find a solution with the province, and we will continue to keep having those discussions.
Thank you. And then just the second part of that concern is that because there is a number of people that do use it to get from point A to point B, they do find them walking on the actual bridge themselves. And I've observed a couple of times. I haven't hit anybody, fortunately, but I've done it myself. So I would imagine other people have been in the same situation. There's no place to walk. So I trust it's being addressed. I just said I would bring it up and ask if there was any further solution other than just the continuation of the process. Thank you.
Mr. Pito?
If I may just add on to the comment, and absolutely, having safe crossings to the railways is very important to the community. I do have to mention, though, crossing at non-designated crossing is trespassing on railway property, and you are, first of all, breaking the law and eligible to get a ticket. But second, you're putting yourself at increased risk. So we definitely recognize the safety hazard that it creates by not having a clear sidewalk along Tupper. There are other crossings, but that's clearly a major one. And then, of course, when people are crossing, that bridge has a fairly steep incline. So keep in mind that motorists have limited sight lines as they crest. So obviously a safety hazard that we are very aware of, and we appreciate the feedback from the community. We'll continue working with the province to try and address the concern.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. As we all know, Council, a couple months ago, Inspector Paul Peddle moved out of Portage to the Northern Division and left a bit of a void in our city. And I would like to call on Staff Sergeant Zane Semaniak, who is filling that void. He will be the acting commander for the Portage detachment. And he would like to come to the lectern and introduce himself to the community and our council. Welcome to Portage. I should say welcome back to Portage.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and reintroduce myself.
Just a little bit closer there, Zane.
As of today, I have 23 years service with the RCMP. The last 10 as a detachment commander in Alberta, actually. So I just came here from Okotoks. Before that, I lived in Portage la Prairie for 8.5 years. So we raised our family here, and we're very excited to be back. When I was here before, I was very involved with the community through the minor hockey program, the Terriers. We used to billet hockey players here. So it's been nothing but welcoming for me and my family since we've been back. Everywhere we go, we know people, which is a really nice feeling. So we're like I said, we're excited to be back, and I look forward to working with council and administration, and yeah, looking forward to calling Portage home for a while. So, and it's nice. I'm originally from Manitoba, only grew up a couple hours at Highway 16, a small town called Foxwarren, and originally from northern Manitoba, Lynn Lake, and was recruited with the RCMP from Snow Lake, Manitoba. So, and it's actually my third trip back to Portage la Prairie. My first job was with the Department of Natural Resources. I guess I'm really dating myself, but I started with them here in Portage la Prairie also.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Dahl?
And not unless anyone else has something under public safety, that would be the end of my report in committee.
Thank you. I think I just don't want us to close committee without making a comment of that. We know that one of our neighboring municipalities and a number of municipalities had a horrific day yesterday with a terrible incident that has taken place. And I just wanted to comment that we as a city are thinking about them, and we know how difficult it is for all of those involved, and especially difficult for the families who lost people, and really difficult for first responders and bystanders who are involved in this. So we want people to know that we support you. We know that I've spoken to some leaders today in those communities, and we know that they're doing everything that they can to support those individuals involved, but that they are in our thoughts and prayers for sure. So thank you. And we will adjourn committee at 7:56 p.m.